afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the webinar, Get Targeted and Get Results. Today, joining us is Megan Keeney from Performable. This is kind of a special webinar. We have a visitor from someplace else. So we're excited to have Megan here with us. And we're going to get we're going to get started in just a couple of minutes. I'm just going to say, as I do for all of our webinars, this webinar will probably be about 45 minutes long or so. And as always, we will have a Q&A at the end. So if you think of some questions along the way, feel free to type those into the box that you see in your GoToWebinar window, and we'll be happy to answer as many of those as we can at the end of the webinar. The number one question we get at every webinar, even when I make this announcement, is this being recorded? And the answer is yes, we are recording this. It will be available on our help site a little bit later, probably tomorrow. Today's a busy day for webinars here. So if you want to look at our help site tomorrow afternoon, you should be able to see the recorded version of our webinar there. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. So first of all, this is the things that we're going to go over today for our Get Targeted and Get Results webinar. We're going to talk a bit about permission-based marketing, how important it is, and how to get started doing that. We're also going to talk about segmenting, some basics and also some more advanced segmentation information to help you send out more targeted email campaigns to help with your business. And so there's quite a few slides there. We also have some great examples of emails that people have sent out doing these type of segmentations of their mailing list. And we're also going to talk a little bit about creating your emails and how to make them a little more effective. And then, as I said, at the end, we will be more than happy to answer your questions. So if you have questions along the way, type those in. So I'm going to hand this over to Megan for a few slides.
Okay, great. So hi, everyone. I'm Megan Keeney from Performable, and I'm really happy to be here with Vertical Response. They're great, as you guys all know. But I did want to start this webinar off with this quote, which I absolutely love, and I won't read it all to you, but I wanted to sort of enter it in, which is this quote by a man named Merlin Mann. The photography is actually done by a guy named Will Lyons. But I love this quote because it highlights the most common gap in understanding between a marketer and an email recipient. You know, the recipient gets all of these, piles and piles and piles of emails, but to a marketer, they're just sending out that one message that's so important to them. And the funny thing is, we all wear both hats. We just sort of compartmentalize because we have to. So when I'm home and I'm in my Gmail account, I'm cursing the marketers that are over emailing me, and then when I've got my marketing hat on, I'm not understanding why people don't want to listen to my very important news. So I just thought I would start off with this quote. Moving on to the, another good way to kind of look at this is where we are in terms of email trends, in recent years. We're seeing year over year, we've seen again and again increases in both the number of emails being sent out and in revenue that's attributed to emails. This second stat I think is a little low even, that 77% of people are checking in at their primary email account at least daily, oftentimes more than that. But I think one of the most interesting trends here is that 27% of consumers overall dedicate an email account that's purely to receive email marketing messages, which is actually a pretty big chunk. I know I do it. I've got a whole separate Yahoo account that I use to sort of sign up for things. And it's not all marketing messages, but it's the ones that I feel like I won't be interested in, but they need my email for some reason or another. So you're battling all of these different filters that consumers will sort of put up. So the big question is, amid all of this noise, how do you make that connection? And the answer is really relevancy. Bank of America, when they sort of started targeting their emails to different segments and they started making them more relevant, they saw a 250% increase in the effectiveness or the efficacy of those emails. So there's more on that to come. So the big question here is, again, how are we making email more relevant? The goal is really, you don't want to be an accidental spammer. We know you have the best intentions. I have the best intentions when I send out emails, but it happens. I mean, it can be tough to know, how to make these things relevant. So, knowing your customers' motivations, um, needing to get the word out, the combination of all these things kind of makes it difficult for you to tell what it is that's going to make an email mean something to a particular person. So the very first step, at the very basics, you have to make sure that you're doing permission-based marketing. Spam is spam is spam. So emailing without having some sort of an opt-in or some sort of a sign-up from customers is going to get you into a lot of trouble. Now, there's a lot of different ways to get people to give you permission for permission-based marketing. You can, subscriptions are obviously the most obvious way. They add a newsletter subscription box to your website. I'm sure that Vertical Response has a widget you can use to do this.
Yep.
Blogs are another great way to sort of get people engaged without get them to sort of feel your content a little bit first, get them interested, and then kind of introduce them to your email newsletter, introduce them to all of that. White paper downloads, same thing, get them interested in the content, give them a sense of what they're going to get. Helpful tools, other sort of engagement metrics with social media as well. And I believe we can go on. There we go. So with that, Vertical Response is pretty much the expert on this stuff. So I'm going to hand it over to those guys, and they can kind of step in with more details.
So, as Megan said, permission-based marketing is, of course, the best way for you to keep in touch with the people on your list and your customers. Here at Vertical Response, we do require that any list that you're mailing to be opt-in. We don't allow any kind of purchased or third-party list to be used through our system. That helps Vertical Response deliver the emails that we're trying to deliver, and it also helps you because you're basically establishing a relationship with people, and if they know at the get-go that you purchased their email address, that relationship is going to be very rocky. So it might be a little harder to get started building your own list, but it's going to be the one that comes through for you. There's a couple things to keep in mind when you're sending out your emails. Definitely send on a regular basis. Generally, we're going to recommend at least once a month. The reason for that is because you want to make sure people are reading your emails. They need to remember who you are. If you're sending out an email quarterly or once a year or something like that, people will not remember that they signed up with you to get your emails. They could, at the very least, just delete your email without reading it, or at the worst, they could click the "This is spam" button and report your email as spam and unsubscribe from your mailing list. So by keeping top of mind, by sending out the email on a regular basis, then your recipients will be a little more engaged in what emails you're sending out and a little more engaged in your company. You want to brand your emails, of course. Whatever logo or information you have about your company you want to include in your emails. Your from label should be your company name so that your recipients know who's sending the email, and then once they open it, they're going to know that they're looking at the right email because you're branding it appropriately. Keep your list clean. Again, a more engaged mailing list is what you're really looking for, the people who are reading your email, people who are clicking on links to go to your website and do whatever you're trying to get them to do. Vertical Response definitely helps you keep it clean because anytime an address bounces or unsubscribes, we're going to keep you from mailing to those addresses so that you have a clean list when you're mailing through our system. But you're also going to need to build your list because email addresses do drop off of your list. Usually about, I think the number is about 13% a year you'll lose to attrition because people's addresses change. It's so easy to set up a free email address. As Megan said, she has a specific one set up just to receive marketing messages. Email addresses are free to create pretty much anywhere you go, so it's easy for people to change. They might change jobs. The economy hasn't been fabulous lately, so email addresses change a lot. So building your list on a regular basis is also something that you want to keep in mind, and I'm going to tell you that in the next slide, some ideas. And the last point on here is to keep your emails relevant. Whatever you promise your recipients when they sign up to get your emails, that's what you want to send to them. So if you tell them you're going to mail once a month, mail once a month. If you tell them that you're going to include specific information in your emails, make sure you're following through on that promise, and that will help keep your recipients engaged and wanting to read your emails.
And one example of that too is we send out a weekly newsletter, and it's actually called. Oh, this is Amber, by the way. I work for Vertical Response too. It's called the VR Weekly Buzz newsletter, so people know that we're gonna get this once a week, and we do. We send it the same day every week,
Yep.
and it sets up that expectation, and people are aware what they're signing up for.
So I have a slide here with just a few tips on building your mailing list. This is probably one of the biggest questions we get here at Vertical Response. How do I build my mailing list? We've done webinars over the last few years specifically on how to build your mailing list. And one of the things I'm going to suggest, because these are just a few tips here, um, is that there is a guide on our guides page, and on our last slide, at our slide at the end of the webinar, we do have a resources slide so you can see where this is at. And it's called 50 Ways to Build Your Mailing List. And there's lots of tips in there, obviously 50, for you to be able to build your mailing list. Whether you're building it B2B, B2C, or even if you're a nonprofit, there are tips in there for everybody. So I would definitely recommend you download that, and it's free. So these are some of the things that we can recommend. One of our favorite examples to help build your mailing list is putting your information for your newsletter on your business card, and that's what the picture on the slide is. The front of the business card has all the business contact information, and on the back it says, sign up for our newsletter and receive 25% off your next purchase. So that's a really easy way to drive people to go to your website, for one, and for two, to sign up to be on your mailing list to help with this permission-based marketing that you're going to be doing. Most people don't have anything on the back of their business card, so that's a great thing to put on there. Of course, Fishbowl or POS, so if you have a brick and mortar store where people are coming up to you, or maybe if you're at a trade show or some kind of event like that, have a fishbowl out, put a sign on it and say, sign up to be on our mailing list, and people can just drop their business cards in there. It's super easy for them. They don't even have to write anything. They can just drop their card in there. Just make sure you're letting them know that by doing so, they're going to be receiving emails. You might even want to offer some kind of a drawing. One of my favorite examples of this is a local coffee shop that I go to has a fishbowl on their counter, and you can drop your business card in there. It says you'll be added to their mailing list, but once a week they do a drawing for a bag of coffee and one of their travel coffee mugs. Doesn't really cost them that much, but that fishbowl, let me tell you, always full. So it's an easy way to build the mailing list. As Megan said, we do have an opt-in form available through our system if you're not familiar with that. It is something that just comes with your account. It's free, so you don't have to pay anything to use that if you don't want to. And basically, you can create the form to look how you want and collect whatever data you want. You have to have an email address on there. That's required by us. But otherwise, you can collect whatever information you like and then put that form on your website, on your blog, on whatever social media platform you're using. You can even include a link in your email, so if people are forwarding that email, someone can sign up to be on the mailing list, or if somebody's posting it on Twitter or something, it still makes it easy for them to be able to sign up to be on your list. Always include a forward to a friend link in your email. Again, this is just part of our system, so you can put that in the email. When somebody uses the forward to a friend link, the person who receives that forwarded email will have a message at the top that tells them who forwarded it to them, so they know that it isn't just spam. And there's a link in there for them to sign up to be on your mailing list. So again, free and easy way to grow your list. Include a sign-up link in all your email signatures. So as you're sending out emails during the day, somebody might see that you have a mailing list and they can sign up through that. Or one of the things that Megan had on the previous slide as well is if you have white papers or PDFs that people can download from your website, require an email address for them to download that. Just let them know that they're going to be added to your mailing list, and then they can download whatever data they have. So as I said, these are just a few tips right here, but check out the 50 Ways to Grow Your Mailing List guide that we have and get some more tips there.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to list segmentation. And there are really two basic types of segmentation. You would segment to create a targeted list to have relevant content to a specific segment of your list, or if you want to do some testing. So people have opted in, you're building your list, you want to send an email. Why would you want to segment? So I'll go over some reasons and ways to segment your mailing list. So the basics is you're just splitting up your list into smaller lists to mail to these broken up versions. So one example is to do a split test, and we do this a lot, and we definitely recommend
Yes.
that you do this as well because you never know how your audience is going to respond. Um, I could think that 50% off is a way more compelling offer, but maybe my audience thinks that the actual price discount, the dollar amount, is better. So that's something to test.
Less math involved.
Yeah, right. And I wouldn't know what works for them. So just finding out what it is that they respond to. So that's an example of like an A/B split test, and you could do this by various percentages. If you have a control what you normally use and you're worried about how the test might perform, you could do 70 for the usual way and 30 for what you're trying to test. You could also do 50-50. So something to definitely give a try. You can also split your lists and segment it based on customer behavior. And this is a really great way to have relevant targeted emails. So one example is just people that purchased certain items from you, and maybe you're following up and seeing how was the purchase, or you know that it's running out and you want to let them know, time to buy more. For us, your email credits are expiring.
Right.
I wouldn't send that to someone who's purchased our postcard product and not the email. So, you need to make sure that it's relevant. Another way that you can target your lists is by interest. So if you know some preferences of your customers, you could send to that specific demographic a targeted email. And an example of this is that we do monthly mailing to our audience that's tested our surveys because we know that they're interested in them. We know that is an interest of theirs. I'm not going to send that to people that haven't tested surveys because they're going to be like, why are you sending me this email? Then there's other types of mailings that you can do where you can segment your list based on customer info. So birthdays are a great one. It's a really good example of a loyalty program. Anniversaries, we do this here at Vertical Response. The anniversary of your first email send through us, there isn't even an offer in there. We have some information, links to blogs about how you can create your own loyalty programs for your business, but it's really just a thank you. Events is another one, and we have an example of this later on, but we're doing an event in Chicago, so we've targeted the list to our audience that's in, Illinois. It doesn't really make sense to send to people here in California. And then just quickly, a few things that you can test if you wanted to do like an A/B split testing. You could do from name, such as company name versus person's name. You could do subject line, short versus long, frequency of send, how many times, what day of the week is best. You can split up your list and send each section on a different day. And call to action. So one thing that we talk about a lot are buttons, and Performable is really great. They have this tool where you can actually create your own buttons and then either put the code on your website, or we take screenshots and just upload it directly into our email and see like what color works better, what size works better, what text works better, that type of thing. So just a few ideas for you.
We recently did testing on you guys if you're on our newsletter mailing list, and you probably didn't realize it, but we were testing button colors recently. So you might have noticed the button colors changed in our newsletter because we found people like green better than blue.
Yeah.
And that's just our recipients, but those are some of the things you can use your segmentation tool for, to break your list up, to test some different things out for your marketing so that you can see, so you can get some better results for what you're sending out.
And so a little bit more about segmenting. There are some do's and don'ts. So the first one that you should do is take some risks. And like I said, if you're not sure, you could do 70 to the control and 30 to the what you're trying to test. You could even split your list into like 80, 10, and 10 and do 3 different colors. We could do green, button, and then be like, ooh, let's see about red and yellow, but I don't really know, so I only want a small segment of my audience to receive that. And do keep in mind your list size as well. You want to make sure that you have a big enough list that if you split it 2 or 3 times, the audience, it's not broken down so much that you just can't get a good pool to test from. So if you maybe just have 50 people, it's a little bit small, but you could do that though.
Yeah.
So something to keep in mind. And then you obviously want to figure out what is it that I'm trying to improve upon. Is it my click-through rate? That would be if I were testing buttons. If I want a better open rate, I would want to test the subject line. Conversion, that would be the offer. So those are things to keep in mind. And it's different for every business and your audience. So that's why testing is so important.
That's why I said our audience likes green
Yes,
buttons, but
but
your
yours
audience may
might.
not.
Exactly. And then test more than once because you don't always get the best results the first time. It's a matter of consistency. So finding out like maybe it was just an off day, or if it happens, 2, 3 times, you can figure out, okay, this is really how it's trending. So now I can make the shift from blue to green, moving forward. And then of course test it again, down the road. Don't test too many things at once because you really don't know then what is attributing the change. If I'm testing a subject line and an image and a call to action button and my offer.
And the day of the week.
Yeah, it's so crazy. So you really need some consistency and some control so that you know what is actually driving what you're seeing, driving the results. And then you can make a really valid decision based on what you're seeing. And then really, we don't recommend either that you divide your list more than 2 or 3 times, just because it means you're testing a lot of different things. The list gets really small. It's better to have just, a really small controlled population to go off of. And then a little bit more about segmenting. So we're not doing a demo, so we just want to give you an inside look into the product. So really what this screenshot is of segments that are created in a vertical response account. So basically up in the blue nav bar, you go to lists and then segments, and you can find all of the saved segments in here. And then here, this next slide is just what you get to when you're actually segmenting the list. So there's a lot of choices to choose from when you're creating a segment in vertical response. So you can segment by your list. You can segment by the campaign, which is emails that you've sent out before. You could segment by both. You can also combine lists, and you can combine campaigns as well.
So the great thing is that you can segment your list based on any data in your mailing list. So when you're uploading your list, if there's something that you might want to use at some point for segmenting, for creating more targeted mailing lists, make sure you're including that during the upload. And then the other great thing is that you can use the segmentation tool to create more targeted lists after people have responded to emails you've sent out. So you could create a mailing list of people who've clicked on a specific link in your email.
Yes.
Those are going to be people who are really engaged in your email. But you could also create a mailing list of people who maybe haven't opened the last 3 emails you've sent out. So create a list of people who have somehow dropped off and maybe send them a different offer or something with a different subject line and see if you can bring them back in. So by using the segmentation tool, you can also take information from your sent campaigns to try to make your emails more relevant to the people who are or aren't reading the email based on your statistics.
So this is really where the magic happens. And just a quick example of that as well is we have a new social media manager here, and he wanted to send a social media campaign. And we were doing other mailings, and we didn't want to just blast our whole universe. So we were able to segment based on people that had shown interest by clicking on our social media links and newsletters and things of the sort and sharing that type of thing. And then we know these people are interested. They'd really enjoy this email. And then we get much better results that way. And then just one more thing about segmenting, a bit of an inside look. So if you want to run a test, it's really easy to split your list, and that's what you see here. So you split the list into more than one segment at the save step. Basically, you select how many lists you want to segment out. Like I said before, we suggest 2 or 3, and here you can see we're clicking 2, so we've selected multiple lists, 2 lists, and then you allocate it by what percent of the total population you want to be in each segment. So you can see here that we chose 2 lists, one at 70% and one at 30%, and you could adjust that in whatever way you feel comfortable with, and then you just name the list so that you recognize them and save, and then they're ready for you to mail.
So just a quick thing on our reporting tools. So this is a great way also to see, again, how engaged people are and how they're reacting to the emails you're sending out. In addition to that type of information, you can also see how any of these testing and segmentations of your mailing list are doing. So if you create a mailing list of the people who have clicked on a specific link in your email, your reporting tools are going to tell you, again, how engaged they are, who's clicking on the links, how many times the links are being clicked on. If you're doing a test, you can compare your control group to the test that you're doing, see how your open rate is or your click-through rate is. So the reporting tools in your account are going to help you a lot to see how your marketing is doing and how any of the changes that you're making are impacting your email marketing. And again, it's just part of your account, so you can take a look on an individual basis of what links are being clicked on and everything. If you look in the bottom right-hand corner, you can do a comparison for your email campaigns, and you can select what emails you want to compare, and then you can see how they compare against each other, and you can set that up under the reporting section. So now some fun things.
Yes. So here's some examples for you of segmentation. So this is a really great email, and what we wanted to point out as far as the segmentation is up there at the very top in the pre-header. It says, please add us to your Gmail contact list so you don't miss an email. And obviously this has been segmented by email address or email client. So it's been sent to Gmail users. This would not make sense to a Yahoo or a Hotmail or AOL user because it says Gmail in it.
Yeah, Gmail made changes last year, and so these guys made changes to their mailing list, and so now they have a specific list that they send to their Gmail contact list to make sure that their emails are coming to the inbox.
Yes, I think that was around priority
Yeah.
messaging.
Yep.
So here's an example too, and I alluded to this one earlier. And this is an email that we sent through Vertical Response, and we're doing user seminars all around the country this year. And we have one coming up in Denver in September. And this was sent to our customers in Denver because we don't want to over mail to our entire mailing list if it's not applicable to them, because they might get annoyed and feel like it's not relevant to me. Why are they sending this? I can't attend. And so that could be very off-putting, and we want to avoid that. So we sent it to the Denver population. I think we probably did it by state. Maybe I think it was Colorado and maybe some surrounding geographics.
Yep.
And that really helped our response rate. It made sense to our customers, and we weren't tiring out our population, and we got much better results in registrations that way, the click-through rates and the registrations, and that's what, the bottom line that we're looking at.
And this is really easy with the segmentation tool because as long as you have postal information in your account, in your mailing list, you can break your list up based on whatever geographical location people are in, state, city, region, however you want to set up your segment for that. As long as it's in the list, you can easily use the segmentation tool to create this type of list. And then one last example of our kind of basic segmentation. This is an email that I got because I watch football, and I'm from Colorado. And they break their list up based on NFL teams that you're interested in. So I've expressed an interest in this particular football team. And so when they send me emails, it's based on this interest that I've shown to them. And again, if you have information on the likes of your recipients, you can easily break your list up to target them with the specific information. So maybe you're not sending out football information. Maybe you're a winery. You can have people sign up and say, I prefer Chardonnay, or I prefer cabs, or whatever type of wine, and then you can send out targeted emails. So maybe you can send out an email once a month about what's going on at the winery, and then maybe you're having a special on Merlots this month. Send out an email just to the people who have said, I like Merlot, and you'll have a better result because you're sending exactly what you need to the exact people.
Okay, great. I can actually pick up at this point, Megan again. And, one of the things you want to think about in addition to, there's really two things that spark and stem from relevancy. One of them is content, and the other is timing. So you want the content, like in the Broncos email, you want the content to be important to the person who's receiving it. You also want to think about where they are in the customer life cycle. A lot of times, too many companies focus on just that first point of conversion, always trying to push to the next sale or bring them back to just another conversion, get clicks, quick schemes, and all of that. And what I'd encourage you to do is to sort of remember that this is a relationship that develops over time, and with that time, the way that you speak to the customers, the content that you send them can also evolve. And we'll go into a few examples about emails that match each stage of the customer life cycle a little bit later on in the webinar. You can move on to the next slide, though. Okay, great. So, Jill already talked about a little bit about a few ways to segment your audience, and segmenting is really the cornerstone of how you get to relevancy in emails. Take a look at your full list and figure out how can you break these people down? What do you know about them? What information will help you be able to understand what they're interested in and where their needs are? There are a couple of ways that, pretty basic ways that you can segment. Using a form that you're using to kind of collect information on that first sign up is great. So, for example, if Jill, when she was signing up for the NFL emails, if that form had asked her favorite NFL team, that's a great opportunity to right away get some interest-based segmentation. You can also build a list of your Facebook and Twitter supporters. So segment based off of the social media advocates that you have and send them tailored communication. You can use if you have a help desk, sometimes you can get emails off of those help desks to email, to people who might need a little bit more care and a little bit more attention because they've called your help desk recently. Or again, your best customers, go to your billing system, go to your CRM system, and find out who's made a lot of purchases over the last year. And we know that we want to send them the best deals. We want to egg them on. You want to make sure that they always know where to turn to when they want to buy your product. So those are a couple of different ways to segment. Performable is actually an analytics and email automation platform. So we actually integrate with email service providers like Vertical Response to let you segment not just on email behavior, but also on behavior that's going on and off your site. So all of those things like creating a segment based on your Twitter and Facebook followers, or creating a segment based on people who have spent a lot of time on your help desk, all that stuff is automated with Performable. But there are ways you can do this on your own without that as well. You can move on to the next slide.
So we have some examples of some more advanced segmenting that some of the emails that we've received or sent out based on a little bit of what Megan was just talking about. So this is an email that I got because I haven't made a purchase with this company in a while. So instead of looking at something that I like or something just based on who I am, this is actually based more on my actions or non-actions with the company, and so they've segmented based on me not making a purchase recently. And so they're sending this out. They want me back. It's unlikely because I don't eat meat, but I had bought this for a gift for somebody.
I was just going to say it's so funny when Jill showed me this because I was like, you're a vegetarian.
Yes, so it'll probably be a while before I send another gift, but I get emails from everything. But it's a great way for them to segment their list as well, and it's something that you can look at as well. As Megan said, there's different places in the life cycle of your customer, and at this point I've kind of dropped off and they're trying to get me to come back and do something in their system.
And I'd like to point out one other thing too on the relevancy factor. Another thing about relevancy that you can keep in mind is what's going on in the world, and Father's Day is coming up, and they mention that in this email. So it's relevant to Jill because she hasn't taken action in a while. They're offering savings, and they're also saying, hey, Father's Day is coming. Thrill Dad. So,
right. So especially since I haven't purchased in a while, maybe I want to give it as a
gift. Yes.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Were they reading your mind? Probably not. Probably doing some good segmenting.
So this is actually two different emails that I'm going to show you here. So this is an email that I got from the San Francisco Food Bank last week. And they're asking me to take a taste test. And for everyone who takes the taste test, the food bank will make $1, which for them gets them $6 worth of food for hungry local families. So for them, it's really important that people take these tests or take this fun test. So I got it last week. I was on vacation last week. I saw it, but I was like, whatever, I'm not going to take the test right now. I was on vacation. Um, a couple days after they sent this one, they sent me another email because I had not interacted with them as they had expected me to. They changed the subject line, so on this one I took a screenshot of the subject line which says, "I'm sour, how about you?" And I was like, what the heck is that? Which made me open it because I knew who it was coming from. I'm like, why is the food bank telling me this? So I saw it, and so they changed the text a little bit. They still have some of the same information, but because I didn't take any action with their company or with what they were trying to get me to do, they segmented their list based on me not taking an action and sending another email. This one worked. I did go take their test so that I could earn $1 for them, and I am also sour if anyone's interested.
There's actually a lot of really great things about this email. They're doing some cause marketing, and we'll talk about that, but they're donating every dollar for a person that takes this. Am I reading that correctly?
Somebody's
Yeah.
donating.
Which
Yeah.
is great. And then also just the copy, like giving back is always in good taste. It's kind of punny. They're playing it, tying it all together. It's really done well.
Good point.
Thank you. So this is a vertical response email. And as Megan was saying, you really have to consider where your customer is in the life cycle when you're targeting and when you're sending emails to make it more relevant. So this is an account activation email. And we sent this at a stage in the customer life cycle, vertical response, where they've opted in, but they haven't double opted in, so like actually verified the account, which is what activates it. So we're sending to that group of people and saying, hey, you signed up, but you didn't activate your account, and then we're encouraging them to do so, giving them some benefits that we have, and then this huge call to action button.
It's a nice green
It's
performable
a
button.
nice green performable button. Exactly. You can't miss it.
I recognize it. Yep.
So this email was obviously sent to the customers who hadn't activated, and we did that through segmentation. And it would not have made any sense for this to go to someone that had opted in already or was even like a paying customer with us. It would totally be off-putting and not make any sense.
Okay, great. So this is actually just another example of kind of a similar approach, actually, but more of an e-commerce tilt to it, which is this is somebody who had, put an item in their shopping cart, their virtual shopping cart, and then for whatever reason, after a given period of time, say 3 days, didn't check out. So using segmentation, you could get a list of those people who abandon their cart sort of midstream and offer them a discount to bring them back. People have seen tremendous success with these type of emails. 150% kind of turnaround rate for people who kind of get these shopping cart fetch back emails. You could actually take this one step further. We've seen one thing here, which Performable, which is a pretty interesting use case. So if somebody abandons a cart, you can add a second condition. So did they abandon a cart and also look at the shipping page? Then send them a coupon for free shipping. Did they abandon the cart and also look at the returns page? Send them a different email that reminds them about the friendly return policy. So you can actually get really advanced in this and really get at what is it sort of standing in the way to that point of purchase. And it ends up being tremendously successful. Next slide, please. Okay, so I promised you guys earlier that we would kind of break down the life cycle and just kind of name some kind of tactical emails that you could send out at each stage. This is obviously not an exhaustive list, but just something to get you started. The very first end of the sort of life cycle, as it was listed before, is the sort of stage of unaware, and we won't even touch that because if you were listening earlier, we do not send emails without permission. So that's a big red X on that one. But when you first find out a customer is interested, it's a little bit like dating. Like you first kind of catch their eye, maybe they fill out a form to get a white paper. They're not really ready to commit to a purchase yet, but they do want to learn a little bit more about you. It's a great opportunity to get some information on demographics, birthdays, as Jill and Amber were saying earlier, get information on their interest level, what they want to hear. You can find out a lot of times, a lot of B2B companies will ask what industry they're in, because that's a good way to kind of help segment what they might want to hear about. Moving on to the next section of the life cycle, once they're sold on you and they become customers, that really opens the door for you to kind of develop this relationship even further. You can, the part of the free trial email is sort of that step for registration, and I think Vertical Response does a good job of checking in to say, hey, you haven't really registered, you registered, but you haven't really set anything up yet. Is everything okay? Can we help? Do you want to activate? Go ahead and activate, making that really clear. I got another similar email from, there's a company in Boston called Runkeeper that will track your exercise runs for you. It's a mobile app. And I set up an account with them thinking that I would start running, and then decided that I prefer to sit on the couch and never actually tracked any runs. And they noticed that, and they sort of sent me a very non-judgmental email that just said, are you having trouble figuring out how to track your runs, making sure that if there was nothing in the way. And I thought that was that's a useful email to get. It doesn't feel like an imposition. They're just trying to help. The preferences email is also another awesome one. Once somebody becomes a customer and you give them, or they give you their email address, ask them what they want to hear about and how frequently they want to hear from you. I think that goes a long way with people. I know that when companies put power in my hands, I always feel a certain fondness towards them, because I can pick the topics I want to hear about. I can pick sort of how frequently I want to be emailed, and you can really sort of get at their motivations there. When people become regular customers, we saw the example of an abandoned cart email, birthday offers, loyal customer offers. These are all things to just keep them engaged, so they're not gonna churn, or you're not gonna lose them as a customer. You're not overwhelming them, because every email is useful for them, but it sort of keeps you on that regular path of communication, which helps. And then the next slide is a couple more targeted email ideas. So in any given company, you're going to have really passionate customers, and we love these people, right? I mean, these are the ones that will attend a webinar and then go tweet on Twitter about how much they liked it afterwards. And those are the people that you want to sort of hang on to, and you want to really empower them. So figuring out who they are, creating a segment out of them, and making sure that, maybe your most passionate customers get sneak peeks into new features or into new products, or they get special invites to events. Anything you can do to really kind of further empower them. Maybe they can provide feedback for a specific product that you're releasing. That can be a really powerful relationship. And then same goes for the other side of the coin. Any company is going to have unhappy customers. Maybe they got confused along the way. They had a bad experience. It happens. It happens in every company, the best and the worst. So, there are certain things you can look out for to make sure that they're not falling through the cracks. So I mentioned before that Performable, my company, kind of integrates help desk behavior and kind of on-site and off-site behavior into email automation. But, you could take a look at your help desk records and figure out, who's been there the most frequently in the last month. Send them a special communication. Make it personal, make it as genuine as possible. Even if it's from the president of your company or from the president of your organization that just says, hey, I just wanted to reach out, see if you had any feedback, see if I can help in any way. And that can really go a long way to win over a customer who feels slighted or who has just sort of gotten lost. I believe that is it for that one.
So we're going to talk a little bit about just some best practices and content ideas for emails over the next few slides. And then again, we have some fabulous examples. And then we will still have plenty of time to take your questions. I'm sure there's questions already. So just a couple things to keep in mind when you're creating your email is basically you need to remember that somebody is going to be reading this on a computer in an email program. So try to think about how you would want your email to look if you were reading it in your own inbox. So make it easy for your recipients to read. Use some easy on the eyes fonts Fancy fonts look really cool, but when you're reading it on a monitor, it's really hard to read them. So use something basic like Arial, Times New Roman, or Verdana. That's a lot easier for your recipients. Try not to do reverse text too much, especially the example I have here where I have white text on a black background. That is really hard on the eyes. So after a while, your recipients will have to give up because their eyes are killing them. So try just to use a plain white background with black text. That's probably the easiest thing for your recipients to read. Try not to put text over distracting backgrounds like we did on our slide here. We love to use this as our example because we do have that check mark in the back. If you're going to emphasize something, emphasize with bold. That's easier to read online than italics. And also underlining looks like a link. So anything that you want to emphasize, just bold. And again, less is more. People have less time to read online, and it's a little harder, so just try to keep it a little simple.
So I'll just extrapolate on that a little bit with some content basics. So you definitely want to keep readers coming back for more. You want to keep your promises. So if you said you were going to give email exclusive offers, you should be sure you're providing some email exclusive offers in your emails. And then make sure that the content is relevant. So that's the best way to keep them engaged. Whatever you promised when they signed up, deliver. You definitely want to limit the topics in your emails so people read slower online than offline. So that is the one thing to consider. As well, you want there to just be a good number of articles that they can keep up with. So 3 to 5 topics or articles is really good for your email. A really long email is just hard for your recipients to read, and it's also hard on you to write too. Most people don't make it to the bottom of the email, so you're wasting your time. You want to keep the most important topics up at the top in the pre-header, the subject line, so that that's what they see first, kind of above the fold, so they say, so that it's not missed. Definitely include links, and this is how your recipients engage. So you're asking them to do something, and then they can take an action that makes them feel good. They get to do something. You can also track that. You can take them to a place with more information, and links that also go back to your site. So something else to consider. And then Megan talked a little bit about personalization. So you can personalize your message as well. And in vertical response, it's pretty easy. You just have a merge field with the first name. We have a little few examples of that here. So it's something that you can do as well.
But anything in your list can be merged in to
Yes.
personalize. So if somebody's made a purchase recently, you can merge that information into the email. If you have a loyalty program, you can merge that data in. As long as it's in the list, you can put it in the email.
Exactly. Yes. You could even do company name instead of first name, something to test. And then the last thing here is just assisting in scanning. So people aren't going to read everything you write. So you can bold headlines and keywords. Bullets are really helpful. Instead of writing all these long, long paragraphs, break it up a little bit. White space is a good thing. Columns, especially if you're doing a newsletter, provide some really nice structure.
It makes it easy for your recipients to read it.
Yes. And so now some content ideas. Sometimes the hardest thing is just getting started with what is it that you're going to write or talk about. So some ideas here are what's up with your business. If you have something new, a new product release, a change, that's all reasons, a new feature, it's all reasons that you can send an email to your customers. Webinars, if you're doing a webinar, we did that with this one. That's a content idea. Promote what's coming up. Holidays, Father's Day is coming up, so we're seeing a lot of Father's Day emails. Before that, it was Memorial Day, lots of Memorial Day emails. I didn't know this, but apparently, I don't know if it was earlier this week. Yeah, it was National Running Day. And I actually saw an email that talked about National Running Day. I mean, any reason that's relevant. That's most relevant as well if you're a athletic company or something like that. So, but you can find things and then make it relevant, or split your list to find the people that would be interested if you have that information. Social media. So Megan also talked about this. You can repurpose content from your social media to put in your emails, and you can repurpose information in your email to put on your social media. You don't have to recreate the wheel every time. We talk a lot about that. One thing that we do in our weekly newsletters that provide helpful information to our audience about how to use email marketing for their businesses is blog posts, because we have a lot of blog posts on it, but we can't include the entire blog post. So we have a section, and we use that as content with a link and a few lines and then a call to action button that goes back to the blog post where they can read more. Questions and surveys are a really great way to increase engagement too. You can survey your audience and find out what is most interesting for them, and ask them questions. That's all I got.
I know you have another slide.
I do?
Yes,
I do. No, my pages got switched. More. That's not all I got. I have a lot more content ideas. So cause marketing is really popular. There was that one example that Jill showed from the food bank that included take the survey and someone will donate $1. There's lots of different things that you can do in regards to that. With the recent natural disaster, the Japan quake and tsunami, there's a lot of companies that were sending emails saying that if we'll donate for people that $1 for everyone that takes our survey, or just even putting out awareness. I mean, there's all sorts of things you can do. It's good for your business, and it's great for your customers. It makes everyone feel good. It's a win-win, and it helps the cause, most importantly. Special offers. If you have a sale, that's one of the best content that you can put out there. You are your employees' smiling faces. This one's great. It goes along with testimonials, advocates, just things that show that you're a happy company and your customers are happy people. Feel good stories. Tips are very great. How-tos, especially if you're a product or a service for a B2B. Awards that you've won, or if you need votes. And then related articles. It doesn't have to be your own content. We leverage other industry happenings and reports and things that are out there that will be helpful.
Just make sure you give credit to whoever it is that you got it from and link back to wherever you got the information.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that's a great way to get content. So just a couple things that you want to avoid in an email, and there's a lot of stuff to keep in mind when you're creating your email, but obviously anything that would get your email put in the spam folder you want to try to avoid. So things like putting free in capital letters or free all broken up in your subject line can cause a problem with delivery. Don't put too many exclamation points, definitely something spammers love, I don't know why. Don't use a lot of capitalization, especially in the subject line. Again, that can cause issues with delivery. Avoid dirty words in your subject line. So things like pharmaceuticals, especially pornography, work from home. Oprah, unfortunately, her name is something that can cause an email to go to a spam folder. So there's tons of things tons of words that can cause issues. Just having the word free in your subject line won't put your email in the spam folder. But other things could. So there's a lot of words to avoid. You can Google these. Go do a search for words to avoid in emails, and you'll get a huge list. And it isn't just the subject line. It can also be the body of the email as well. So try to watch some of the stuff that you're putting as actual content. If you're writing your own HTML or somebody's writing it for you, make sure your HTML is clean. You need the HTML tag and the body tags at the beginning, and you also need to close those. Again, dirty HTML can cause an issue with delivery. It's something spammers just don't have time to write good HTML, apparently. Too busy spamming, so spam filters are definitely looking for that. Also, if you're linking, especially if you're linking to a third-party website, make sure that you know where your links are going so that you don't have delivery issues with that. Always have a text backup for your HTML email. In vertical response, we automatically create that for you, but ISPs are looking for text backups to your graphical emails, and if those are missing, you can have delivery issues as well. And always make sure your email is a balance of text and images. Again, if it's just a single image, you can cause your email to go to the spam folder because, again, that's a spam tactic. So some more fun examples of some of the things you can do with your email as far as content goes. This is one of my new recent favorite examples because this is testimonials. Again, Megan talked about the different stages in the life cycle, and these are advocates. So it's easy to find your advocates. A lot of times you can send out a survey, and the people who are very enthusiastic, or as Megan said, people who post on Twitter or Facebook, are probably advocates for your company, and you can ask them for testimonials. That's a great thing to use not only in your email but also on your website. Your advocates are great people to have on your side.
And they're creating the content for you.
They are, and also I love the picture of the people taking the tour. Those are advocates right there. They aren't actually saying anything, but they all look like they're having a great time, and that would make me want to go on this tour without even having to read how great the tour is in the testimonials that they have.
So here is an example that we really liked. It's about a holiday, but not a traditional one, which is great. Like I said, anything can be a reason to send email. And then another thing that they do really well is an invite to join their Facebook page. So that, become a fan. That's great content, and it encourages your email recipients to engage with you on social media.
And some cause marketing because they're going to plant a tree
Yay!
if you like trees.
3 good things.
This one is another just great example of how to set up an email. There's a little more to this, but they don't have too many images. There's a lot right here, but the very top of the email is all text. So if images are being blocked, the content is still here. Plus, they use the table of contents in the top right there, so I can see what else is going on in this newsletter, and I can jump to that if I want to. Plus, there's lots and lots of white space, so it's really easy to read this one.
So this is a great email. We really liked it because it's easy to read. It has the columns that we talked about. It has all the social media icons that are easy to see. It's personalized. And it has a great call to action button. And they're asking for votes for this SFBA list, which is really great content and a great way to leverage and engage your audience. Especially if these are people that were advocates, that would be an even better way to segment to make sure you're getting that vote.
And here's another one just broken up nicely. Small amount of images, lots of links, lots of white space, sending out to people who are interested in this specific information. Plus, they have a little plug at the bottom for purchasing some of their products, but it's really easy for people to read this email.
And then this is just another email that we thought was pretty nice. It has lots of links, and it's very easy to read on the main part. We did mention not doing the white text on the black background. That's not the best thing, but they do have a really nice image up there, and the call to action button stands out. Buy tickets today. It's really hard to miss that, so that was done well.
So just to wrap this up, just some things to keep in mind. The best email marketing results will always come from your permission-based list. Those are the people who are most interested in your company. That's where your advocates are. That's where the people who are most engaged with your company are. Segmenting your list can help keep your recipients interested and engaged, especially if you're sending out targeted emails that are specific to what they want to hear from your company. Email content isn't all about selling. You want to keep in mind that people want to have a balance. So have a sale, promote your product, but also send other valuable information to them as well, not just hit them all the time with buy, buy, buy. And as we always say in pretty much all of our webinars, you're going to need to test some of this to see how it works for your recipients and see how they respond to some of the things that you've done. So we're going to go ahead and start taking some questions. We do have some resources slides. Our help site, always helpful if you want to create emails or view recorded webinars. So you can go there to get the recorded version of this. Our blog has a lot of resources. And this is the link to our guides page where we have the 50 ways to grow your email list that I had mentioned earlier. And some resources from Performable. Megan can probably talk to these.
I can speak to these, yep. So the second one down is the buttons that we mentioned. You can go there and create buttons for your email campaigns, for your website. You just pick the text that you want to go on it, try different colors out, try different sizes out, and then they're yours to take. All of these are free. We also have a multi-channel URL builder, which is kind of interesting for emails. A lot of times it can be hard to connect your email kind of analytics to your website analytics. And by using that URL builder, there's a little bit of a tag you can add to the end of your links that will help you do that, so you know what traffic your email campaigns are driving to your site. and which links are doing that. And then there are just a few others. We did just launch a podcast. It's just all marketing lessons, which is available on iTunes too, which is a lot of fun.
Okay, so I promised we'd answer your